Anyway, I'm recording. I'll give you a little tease and go into depth at lunch. So the first thing I had everyone do is paint a normal painting, however you paint your watercolor. And you're probably going to copy your reference. So that's local color. And here's what I used for reference. I don't know who did this. I think Eugene Christian or something like that did this, but I just picked this for a sample because it was a simple landscape and it had a multitude of colors. And so I painted something that looked like this first. I tried to copy it as faithfully as I could. And then I painted this. So I painted one that I replicated that. These don't have to be big. These are quite small just for the experiment. And then I painted a value study, light, midtone, dark, light, midtone, dark, light, midtone, dark, red, yellow, and blue. Why not? Because I wanted to put a certain glow or cast or under painting on that. And this is what I ended up with. And the only thing that's hard about this is doing 4 of the same thing. I got bored. Anyway, so if I compare what I did here and the results here, I painted the same thing 4 times. They each have a different quality to them. And I personally like, wait a minute, which one do you guys like? You can see where it came from by looking at this.
Top right.
Which one?
Top right.
This one. So that's got that glowy kind of, you can use any warm earth tone that you want. I think this was, what was that?
Yellow ochre.
It looks like yellow ochre or raw sienna, one of those. I think I mixed it. I think this was alizarin. I think this was ultramarine. So you could try this in different shades, various shades. Just keep it simple. I mean, pick something simple to paint. You can do it. You don't even have to. You can do an abstract. So anyway, anybody else?
Upper left.
Upper left. That's the local color. That's without anything behind it.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, that's fine. If you like that one the best. The thing I like the best about this one is this right here. This dry on dry, which we're going to cover today. Otherwise, my personal favorite is this one because it's kind of different. It's kind of unique, and I've got some autumn happening back here. The class, one of the classes, this was their favorite. So it depends on what there's no right or wrong. It's as art it goes, it's all subjective.
Joe,
yes.
Did you paint the sky too? I can't see from here. Did you paint the sky a very light shade of the red or the yellow?
Yeah, this was kind of a mauve-y, purpley kind of gray.
I mean, in your underpainting, you painted,
No.
Oh, you didn't paint the sky.
No, this is the underpainting. When you do underpaintings, you pick light, dark, and midtone. There's my light. What do I want to stay white paper? My sky in that road or stream or whatever it is. And then I paint that big shape. I paint that big shape with midtone. If you guys remember, instead of painting in gray or Payne's gray like we did, I painted it in a color. That's the only thing I did differently. And then I painted my dark. Well, that is dark relative to the light and the midtone. I don't want to paint too dark because then I'm going, I can't paint on top of it unless I use gouache. So this is just this could be lighter actually. This could be lighter actually, but it's interesting how it turns out. And I didn't use any gouache on this. This is just all transparent watercolor. Anyway, it was quite fun. Anyway, I'll go into a little bit deeper about that at lunch. So here is your, oops, my phone just dinged. So somebody's late or somebody's not coming. Oh. Somebody just ordered. So let me do this real quick. Let me do this real quick. Well, I'm telling you. Yep. So let me go to my sent mail and do this real quick. Sorry about that. Nothing like last minute, last second. Okay. Always happens. I had one sign up waiting for me this morning, and this one just happened. So let me go over what I sent you, which was this. Amazing is a word I don't use, and I just used it. So anyway, these are two things that are two colors. This, I added a color. I added this pink, and I added this, I'm not sure whether I added that or not, that yellow. From the reference, these two didn't end up anything like the reference that I used. So I took advantage of the big four. I'm calling it the big four, and that's what we're here today. A warm color and a cool color. So go through your paints and figure out what that is that you would like to try. I suggest in this workshop, you try several combinations. And I'm going to show you examples of that. Here's just some reference that stay on the two color side. I painted several of these, but not all of them. And I put these in here because you have a big variety. And I like I like these things for me, and maybe that, but this gives you a lot of leeway to paint whatever you want. And depending on what I'm painting, I might pick a warm color that is harmonious with my subject matter. I don't have to use the same one every time. This happened to be Winsor and Newton Payne's Gray. And the reason I picked Winsor and Newton is because out of the dozens of Payne's Grays, it's the bluest. There were actually a branch of Payne's Gray that looked like neutral tint, which I don't get. But anyway, maybe at lunch I'll look it up if somebody reminds me, and I'll show you. Somebody did a study on Payne's Gray, but you could use blue. For a long time, you guys know me, I used ultramarine and burnt sienna. Anyway, so there is that. And also I sent you an invitation this morning to Cluster, which you can join now or later. Doesn't make a lot of difference, but here's all the reference. And if you're not familiar with Cluster, it's free, it's private. It's a photo sharing site where you, a moderator, you can post and you can remove. You can put it up there for comment and say, am I done? Or I really like this, or this sucks, what do I do? You can do whatever you want with that. So here's a bunch of stuff that I put in Cluster, and this is just for you, whatever you're into. If you're into animals, if you're into flowers, if you're into landscapes, if you're into abstraction, all those things. So plus the samples that I did. This turned out, this was supposed to be an ocean with a wave down here. And I had a big bloom that I intentionally created. And so I turned it into a tree. This is more or less what I was kind of intending with that. And this is just two color using the big four. I'm calling it the big four, which we're all familiar with. But you don't have to wait for something to dry. You can keep painting. And when we start doing these, this top third, I'm a rule of thirds guy. High horizon, low horizon. You can paint the same thing using both. So if you like that reference that you're using, paint a high, paint a low. One's about the sky, one's about the land. You can paint horizontally, vertically. This is wet and wet, and that's how I started. And I started with two colors. I used Winsor & Newton Payne's Gray, and I used quinacridone rust. It's one of those colors I had in my extensive collection of tubes of paint. I think I put them all out on my board once. I had like 150 tubes of paint. A lot of those were given to me, but this was quinacridone rust, and I thought it was interesting because it was kind of close to burnt sienna, and except it had a little more punch. So this is wet on wet. This is wet on damp, and some down here. There's two ways. So while I was waiting for that to dry, so I could paint wet on damp, I painted dry on dry through here. And this is, of course, wet on dry. I've got hard edges. I've got medium edge. I've got soft edges. And this is where I let it dry till the sheen was off the paper. And then I added water. So I got these blooms. So that was really kind of important, because now I have, between the blooms and the dry on dry, I have a lot of textures going on. And then I just added salt, which you can do or not do. Here's two color combinations. These are very simple. They're all in reference. I would keep it very simple. Here's something I did with two colors. This is the Winsor Newton Payne's Gray and quinacridone rust. Here was my wet and wet. I let that dry completely. And then I started painting wet on dry. And this is wet on damp. This is wet on damp. So when I started painting wet on dry, I painted this orangey kind of looking color and let it go. And then I started adding the Payne's Gray. So now I get this interesting neutral. And then I can add my dark, but I want that squeeze going down. I do not want it in the middle. And then I started, I painted some detail. Okay, yeah, I finished off some of the buildings. I added some cars and people in a street. And this is the dry on dry down here for that sparkly wet pavement. And then at the very end, when everything was dry, this was quinacridone rust. I took quinacridone gold and I just made one stripe down through here. And so it completed the painting. I only made one stripe. And so that was where my sun was coming up or whatever. Anyway, I thought that was pretty interesting. There's just more reference. That's just two color, those two colors. Here's something that's kind of interesting, because I didn't paint this, but here's the horizontal dry on dry, and here's the vertical dry on dry. And I kind of like the crosshatch it made. I don't see too much of that. Usually this reflection is wet on damp. It's softer edge, a bunch of salt. There's reference. And we started doing, these were all just makeup. They were nice little warm-ups, just as using two color. And so all I really did was, I didn't have any reference. I just made it up out of my head. So I have a diagonal, and then I put an opposing diagonal, and I had one back here. So here's texture, here's dry on dry, here's wet on dry and wet on damp. Same. So whatever I did here, I try to do the opposite here. And so I just made these up, and you learn a hell of a lot by doing these, and not all of these are going to turn out. But I don't care. It will help your design uh, ability, capability immensely. Just put down a stroke, just put down something, and that's going to kind of tell you, oh, that kind of looks like blah, blah. And here's just more. I had no idea what I was going to do with this. I just put down these big sweepy strokes, and then I put a horizon line in, and I put a diagonal and another diagonal. I picked up this C curve with just these guys. So it's very interesting what turns out. And if you put these in your sketchbook or notebook, they turn into paintings. All of these turn into paintings. I painted this one with, I wanted more of a real sky. And while that was drying, this was damp down here. I just made one stroke. I put some concentrated color on this, and I made one stroke, and it painted this for me. And I thought that was great. Oh, look at that. That's the magic of a watercolor. I had a bloom here, and it kind of looked like canyon country to me. So that's a dry wash or whatever. Anyway, they're great fun to do. And that is all in, that's all in cluster. And here's an abstract using basically 2 colors. If you like to paint abstract, I happen to like this painting a lot because I love this little glow. It's drawing me back there. I want to go there. That's Sterling Edwards. Here's another thing that we used in just for reference. It's a crucifix. It's vertical and it's horizontal. So back to those little guys, you can, this was 2 colors. That was 2 colors, and I added the little red down here for that barn. So that's using all the stuff, wet on wet, wet on damp, wet on dry, and dry on dry. So it makes for a pretty complete painting. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so that's the cluster folder that I sent you. And so stuff is in there. The handout that I sent you, we just covered. I will put this away for a second. Here's something I might show at lunch because he paints in a limited palette. And I've had this workshop before using 3 colors, a red, yellow, and blue. You can paint anything. I use azo yellow, Hansa yellow, cad yellow light, any lemon yellow, any yellow that's not too warm or too cool. So I can make any color. I make a good orange. I can make a good green from that yellow. I use quinacridone rose, and I use phthalo blue, green shade. So those are printing colors. Those are colors you see when you look at dots from a printed piece. Anyway, here's a bunch of stuff on a reference. Here's other things that you could paint using this. If you like this, you could figure out a way. That could be the dry on dry, and the limb could be dry on dry, wet on wet, wet on for the breast, wet on damp, and wet on dry. Here's just a bunch of things that you could paint. That would make a nice 2-color painting. Here's another one that you could just use to try stuff. I'm going to try warm and a cool, but keep these very simple. And if you're into figures, here's a very simple way to do that. I really like these I don't know who did those, but I really like those figure drawings. And here's what I did in class. So here's a reference for this is in cluster. That's boring to me. I mean, that's ordinary. Yeah, and I can paint sandpiper, done very quickly. I love this. I haven't finished it. Maybe I have finished it, but This says Sandpiper. It's a really, for me, it's a really good design. One pointing down, one pointing diagonally, one pointing up. So you can try all kinds of things with this using just those two colors. Your two colors, a warm and a cool. Okay. Let's go here. And I'm going to send this to you along with the video links. They'll be recorded, but I'm going to send this to you anyway. This is a great little blog post that I found by Susan Abbott, and it was it's about a world of two colors. And this goes way back, centuries back, but this is two colors. How you find your two colors, you can just go opposite on the color wheel. They're going to make the neutral for you, right? If you remember that. And you can use colors to do that. You can use yellow and purple, green and red, orange and blue, or a combination of the stuff. So what I think is interesting, if you just pick something from the warm side of your palette, earth tones, or on the cool side of your palette, I'll call them earth tones. I don't want to call them browns. And something from the cool side of your palette is blues. Then you get a wide variety, and you can do a lot of paintings just using those two colors, which I will show you. Tom Schaller, if anybody knows that name, uses a lot of two colors. I think he uses French ultramarine and French, some kind of orange. Anyway, this is some of her work using two colors. There's cobalt, there's ultramarine, and it depends on what you're painting. What colors would give me the best chance to paint this? Is it a warm brown? Is it a cool brown? And here's a combination that you could do if you wanted to. I'm not doing it. There's quinacridone sienna. That's Daniel Smith. You can paint very simple subjects. You can paint abstracts. You can try painting the same thing. That's cool bias. That's warm bias. Here's another example. I think that's Susan Abbott. Anyway, I'm going to send you this blog because it's very interesting about two color palettes. This is a little, I'll show you the end of this first. This is what she's painting. And I picked this one because it's two colors, but it's not, it's an unusual two color. So she's going to end up.
Short-term rentals are one of the smartest wealth building strategies today.
Are they?
But actually,
anyway, that's just an atmospheric painting, but it's a simple painting. So I suggest you keep it simple. And I think she used
it to be very soft and very misty. And for this, I'm going to use a limited palette of two colours. And I'm going to be trying out my new Prussian blue and Venetian red. And these are two of our handmade watercolors.
Okay, so that's what Prussian blue and Venetian red look like. So that's a warm and a cool. So if you're after that kind of palette, oh, I want something a little brighter than neutral, then you could try that. So anyway, that's kind of what that looks like, and I'll send you the link to this. But she is painting wet and wet.
Lovely, subtle, misty background, but with that beautiful sunset glow high up in the sky. So now I'm using my 3/4 inch flat brush, and I've mixed.
Now she's painting wet on dry. By the way, when I send you these links, if you like what she does, then you'll have a bunch of stuff over here. You're all familiar with YouTube.
Who is she, Joe?
Lois, it says Lois and Morgane Davidson Art. I think she's got to be Lois. I don't know Morgane. Morgane. I don't know what that is. It's kind of, yeah, anyway. So she's painting, now she's painting the wet on wet. And this was kind of a wet on damp a little bit to have a little more delineation on whatever you're painting. Wait for the paper to dry for a few minutes. When the sheen goes off of the paper, then you can paint your wet on damp. And that's especially useful for clouds or just stuff you want to keep in the distance. Once it's completely dry, you can paint wet on dry. And if you want to, at the end, I think she does have a, I don't know if she has any, uh-oh. Oh. This could be, these trees could be dry on dry. Anyway, so there's a quick little reference on that. And so this is another interesting take on two colors. There's tons of stuff in here on YouTube.
My favorite artists, what colors were in their palette? As time went on, I started to realize that tone is more important than color. For example, take any painting or any photo on your phone and turn on the black and white filter. It still is a great painting, even though there's no color. Tone is what we use to depict what we're seeing in front of us. Color, on the other hand, is what we use to express ourselves. So today, I'm going to be walking you through. We're going to be focusing on tone, and hopefully you'll be a better painter. Let's get started.
So, by the way, I don't know who John Box is. I'm not subscribing, but I think it was interesting. So if you like what he is communicating, then subscribe and do what? I've given you several links over the years, and you can dig deeper if you want.
We've got our sketch here. I'll put my reference photo over on the right-hand side so you can take a look here. This is Paris, France. It's kind of a vintage photograph. The sketch has been kept pretty true to form, but as always, part of being an artist, part of creating something of your own is kind of moving things around to fit your taste. So we've got a couple of vehicles up front, some folks, pedestrians walking across the street. For the colors we're going to be using today, I've got two pigments here. I've got cobalt blue and yellow ochre. And if you don't have these and you want to follow along, that's no big deal. All you need is just a cool color and a warm color. That's all that we're working with here. Something we've got to be really careful is, or something we've got to be really careful about, is monitoring how watery our washes are, because normally I've got a neutral tint that I can use to really darken and get that impact I'm looking for. But since we don't have that, if I get too dark with my first wash, I'm not going to be able to get that tonal contrast that we're looking for. So let's go ahead and get started here. I'm going to spray a little water on the paper. And again, we're going to try to keep things very loose. This is just for fun. If you want to do a full painting like this or introduce this sort of style into your works, you can. But today, we're learning about how to focus on tone and try to ignore color a little bit more. Just think warm and cool, light and dark. So for our sky here, I'm just going to brush some water around to get us started. And then I'm going to come in here and we're going to get a lot of kind of greenish mixtures, right? We've got kind of this yellow and a blue pigment. So we've got to be careful, but there's nothing wrong with that. But I want to just kind of spread it out a little bit.
I'm going to speed
some
this up.
lighter variations.
People think learning piano takes a really long time, but that's false. Here's how long it really takes with this new method.
In this building, we've got the roofs and the bodies. And so I say, which one's cooler, which one's warmer? The bodies are warmer, the roofs are cooler. From the distance, on the hood of the car or the grill. And then I'll leave that alone for now. I'll come back and mess with it. Let's let this dry and we will work on our third wash.
So he is using, what did he say? Cobalt blue and yellow ochre.
Right.
So he's gonna get, he can get a pretty good dark from using those. And so that's what I'm interested in, because I have to be able to get a good dark. So
And
if I use like yellow ochre, or raw sienna, same difference, kind of sort of. It's a fairly light value. You can look at it on your palette. But if I mix that with, I probably would have not chosen cobalt blue. Cobalt blue is an excellent choice because it's right in the middle. It's a very neutral blue. Cerulean has yellow in it. Ultramarine has red in it. So just try it. See which one you like. If you like painting in two colors. So here's the wet on wet sky. Here's the wet on damp that's staying back. And it's got an edge, but it's got more of a defined edge than just having a wet on wet go blue. Here's wet on dry. Here's dry on dry. So those are the kind of the four biggies, I think. Anyway.
Again, always being loose with it. That's the key to everything we're doing here. And maybe I'll throw
Okay.
one vertical line.
You've seen
We
enough
have
of
this kind of street light post here. I'll kind of
You've seen enough of that. So you could do a nice painting just with two colors, or if you want, like I did on that cityscape, that slash of yellow, just add that, you know, if you're doing a sunrise, sunset kind of thingy, you can just put that slash of color. And if you want that color to be soft, then you can mist it first. Anyway, so that's that guy. And so here's another take on this. And then we'll paint.
I got many questions about the colors that I use, and it is in my Fast Track Watercolor PDF guide. But then some people also ask me exactly what color that I use to mix a specific color. And that's not something I can easily answer because I mix the color with my eyes, not formulas.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Eric from Cafe Watercolor. Let me make this clear. Colors are important. If your painting has harmonious colors, it can look very pleasant and natural. So the key here is harmonious colors, not pretty colors. Any color can be beautiful in the right context. That's why I don't really have a favorite color. But even if you do have a favorite color, I'm sure you have seen that color in the wrong context and it doesn't look that appealing. There's a very simple approach to mix harmonious colors, and that
So you might have a favorite color. Your new favorite color, I have to have that, so I'm gonna go buy a tube of it. And then what happens? Oh, I forgot to use that color. It's 2023 and I bought it in 2022. Yeah, we've all been there. So for me, it's not a favorite color, it's a favorite palette. What's my favorite palette to use? We're all biased one way or the other. I'm going to use my favorite color and my favorite palette. I'm going to use what complements that.
That is to start with a neutral gray. And here is why. Number one, neutral gray is a great starting point. From neutral gray, you can create warm and cool grays. And from there, you can expand the colors of your painting. This will make it much easier to create harmonious colors because they all have the same starting point. It will be more about shifting the balance of warm and cool rather than thinking about a specific formula.
I highly suggest you do this. Whoops, where'd it go?
Which I'm going to show you very soon. That's much easier than start with 12 or more colors. Even if you paint a whole painting with just 2 colors, it can still look very good. Remember, a good painting is all about good shapes and values. Good colors can certainly attenuate the painting, but that's not the first thing you want to worry about in a believable painting. So make this part as easy as you can. So all that being said, let me share with you a quick demo on how I mix colors of your painting. This will make it much easier to create harmonious colors because they all have the same starting point. It will be more about shifting the balance.
This is what you can try. Okay, it's easy as that. Well, and then you have a complete range. you can do it by painting something, but if you know going in, gee, I wonder what that would look like with that combination out of your warm and cool palette, if you will. So we'll do one of these just to see, and then you'll have it. Wonder what that would look like with that.
Joe, what's the neutral gray this man's talking about? Is it
Cool.
any two
Cool.
complements?
I'm sorry, Mac.
What is the neutral gray this man is speaking about?
Right here, it's mixing these two colors.
Oh, so you can make them with any two complements, really.
Yeah, see, this is a neutral gray, but it's warm bias. This is a neutral gray and it's cool bias.
Okay, all right. No, I understand.
Yeah, and I can use this as my bright color. I can use this as my bright color. It depends on what I'm painting. If I'm painting a winter scene, that's kind of obvious. If I'm painting autumn, I'm going to want orange and red and yellow. But I can use those in combination with my Winsor and Newton Payne's gray and get quite a nice painting. I don't have to use 12 colors.
Don't add a lot of water. Now I'm just gonna keep adding these two colors together, and we're gonna have a neutral gray, maybe a little bit warmer. We're gonna have a neutral gray, but is a lot darker. And add some more blue. We got a darker, cooler gray. And add more burnt umber. We got darker, warmer gray. Okay, it's not that difficult. Okay, the only thing you need to know is the ratio between cool and warm color, and you judge that by looking at your palette and looking at your.
I'm going to take a screenshot of this just to put up to have reference.
Palette, look at the color that's coming out right here. So with just cobalt blue and burnt umber, the color is a lot more stable that way, and it'll be easier for you to handle in the beginning. Okay, so I hope that is helpful for you. With two colors, you can create a variety of warm and cool grays. And now I'm going to share with you the process of this painting using just cobalt blue and burnt umber painting. This is a very small painting and other technical things. It goes down to the horizon.
There's wet and wet.
The atmosphere
start.
got a little bit warmer. So as I come down, I start to warm things up a little bit. And I also give the building their first wash as well. The buildings on the right is closer to us, it's bigger, and it's a little bit warmer. And the buildings on the left, they are more into the distance, so they are a little bit cooler. So I give them their basic. Now we are painting the second wash. The building, once again, is a lot warmer, and to pay attention to wet detail like that. Those detail will be softer and.
See, these are nice little variations. Here's a light coming from back here. Here's the wet on wet. Here's wet on damp. It has a little bit more definition to it. There's some wet on damp in here. Then it goes wet on dry. But when you paint this blue shape right here, that can be wet on dry. But then that's damp paint. So you can go back and you can bias it a little bit with a warm. Oh, I kind of like warm. It makes that building have form, so on and so forth. Whoops.
It's actually good because I can use more cobalt blue to establish that sense like these can still feel very complex.
And here's some
I really like to
dry
make
on
things
dry.
as simple as possible because I believe it's easier to enjoy paint.
Anyway, so those are some little snippets. I think you all get it. They're all saying, I'm saying the same thing. So I want you to try what Holly's already started with. You've already started trying your palettes. So I'm going to go back to this. all, by the way, again, all this stuff is in cluster. This is one I haven't painted yet that I want to paint. Not today because it'll take too long. I want you to go off on your own. I want to do some controlled stuff and then have a lunch break, and then I want you to go off on your own. And then I will help you through whatever questions you might have. Hi, Karen. Anyway, so what first thing that I did, and this was back to editing, this is back to design, is I did that with it. And I really didn't make people bigger or smaller. I just thought this was too much going on, too distracting. And so I just broke it down into that. Yes, I can still have a clock. Yes, I can still have what made me want to paint that. But this is definitely some dry on dry. The wet on wet to start for this glow light, just like I showed you with those buildings. This will have a glow up here. And then you start a little bit of the, I started with my buildings wet on dry. And while I was painting the wet on dry, that was a wet shape. And as it dried, this is wet on damp, this glow, just drop in a little bit of your warm color, whatever it happens to be. And so that's wet on damp, wet on dry for a lot of it, and dry on dry for that texture. Anyway, so let's get out of that. I'm just going to save that. And let's just try this. Let's just try this to start with. Pick what you think. And you can do more of these on one page. Don't start yet. We can do more of these on one page, trying two different combinations of color, or you can just have one be your control. Like my paints gray would be my control, and now I can try quinacridone gold, burnt sienna, quinacridone rust, terra rosa, Venetian red, yellow ochre. I can try all those just to see what happens. So here's something I'm going to do first that I've already shown you, but I have these on my table. And so let me turn the light on. By the way, I will allude back to this at lunch, that piece that I showed you on painting, the underpainting value study. Instead of painting this in paint in gray values, I just picked a color. So that's going to give a cast to my whole painting. If I painted on top of that, I think that's called grisaille, which is used in oil painting, for example. They'll paint an underpainting with for their value study, and then they'll paint their color on top of it. I have actually done that. I actually did a video on that on Teachable, I think, and I had to use wash. I'd use wash on top of that to cover up some of that. So, but I used this. I didn't use a light color. I didn't use the red, yellow, or blue. I painted lightly. I think the darkest value on that little study was 50%, not 100%. Anyway, so this is what happens. This is a really good example of wet on damp. That's wet on wet, wet on damp, dry on dry, wet on wet, and wet on damp. And then I actually just added water when it was about half dry. The sheen was off the paper, so I get these back runs. Which really have it's really a cool effect. I mean, if you just let it paint. This is another example of two colors. This is the quinacridone rust. So if you paint this way, this is quite fun, actually. I don't need any more colors on here. I think I didn't add anything on any of these. Add a little white, but these are just two colors, quinacridone rust and paint gray. Here's one biased the other way. If I had to paint this again, or I painted this again, I would use, I used a little bit too neutral here. I would have made those rocks a little brighter, so I decided to make it a nocturnal. It's the waves breaking in moonlight, walking on the beach. Here's another one. So you can have quite fun with this. I just kept this really simple landscape. This bloom that I got on these guys was a big bloom, and it turned into a tree. You can see that some of it. So I just put some of my brighter color and made trees out of it. You can see the edge peek through. This was what I ended up with for the city scene I showed you. Besides this dry on dry, I put some dry on dry here just for a little texture. It really completes the painting as far as I'm concerned. This is just a little warm up, diagonal thing. Learn a lot about design. Here's a lot of the stuff that we did in class. And I think that's it. So anyway, so let's go back and try some of these. I'm going to pass these around. Haha, I'm passing stuff around so you can see it live. Sorry, Zoomers. Anyway, I also printed out for this. I take requests, by the way. So here is my palette, and I've added colors to this. This is a great little cheap, I don't know how much this was. It's a cheap. I would probably get more than one of these. I'm going to get more than one of these, but I just wanted a 2-color palette to take home. This is my quinacridone rust, and this is my Winsor & Newton Payne's gray. I have added nickel quinacridone, and I just bought a tube yesterday. I had to have of orange iron oxide. So that's kind of between these guys. I also put in a couple of more blues. That's Prussian blue, and that's anthraquin. I can never pronounce it. I don't know why they named it that. Anthraquin blue. That's M. Graham. So anyway, there's my palette.
Is that a cool blue, that
It is this. I suggest that you do this too. So here's what I did. And we're going to kind of do this right now. So this is sepia. I have sepia, which is really, really dark. I'm surprised that one guy used burnt umber. You can use Van Dyke brown, but those are really dark, but they're not very, I can make a good dark by not just having that very neutral color out of the tube. So I wouldn't use sepia. I would not use burnt umber. I would not use Van Dyke brown. I can make a good dark with ultramarine and burnt sienna. I can make a really good dark. Anyway, so I just wanted to see what these look like. And somebody just asked me, anthraquinone blue. This is what that blue looks like. And it's kind of ultramarine-y, I think. This is a Prussian blue. So that's got a little bit more warmth to it. And I can use that for that ocean thing, that ocean rocks. This is my Winsor Newton Payne's gray, and that gets blue. This is my quinacridone rust. So I'm probably going to do another sheet on here. And these little books, which I've sent you before, these are great because I can put a ton of stuff in here. Look at that. Oh, look at that. I can put a ton of things in here. That's when we were painting gouache. There's my Payne's gray, and there's my quinacridone rust. And I'm getting all these colors out of it. So that's kind of what I'm suggesting. So and you can use a pad. What I would do is I could get a two color combination, and two color combination. I could, you don't need very big squares to figure out.
That's that, yeah. Wow.
It won't come off. No.
Yeah. That's.
Yes, here's what happened. Here's what happens. Some of you I know have a tube of paint. You have a tube of paint that you had to have, and it's been sitting in your drawer, and it's still somewhat soft, but the lid won't come off. So the cap. So I had that happen yesterday with a brand new tube of paint. And so I soaked it in a cup of hot water, and then it came right off. Aha, another one.
She's been soaking. Thank you. I have been soaking. Maybe too long.
So yeah, be careful with these because you can split this.
Twist. Right. Thank you so much.
You can split the tube.
Oh, yeah.
So if it really won't come off, just put it in a cup of water, hot water, have lunch, and have a cup of coffee, take a walk, come back. So here is, I'm going to use my, I'm going to have paper towel handy because I want to clean this to make sure that I'm not contaminating colors. I have kind of an accurate that looked like the Prussian blue to me. So now I have a clean palette. So now I can mix my colors. So I'm going to put my cool on one side and my warm on the other side. Here's some Payne's Gray, and I'm going to be, I don't want too thin a wash. I want something that I can melt. So here's my Payne's Gray. And I'm going to add a little water. Add a little more water. And now I'm going to start using my quinacridone rust. There's my quinacridone rust. I'm going to take a little bit of that and a little bit of that and mix it together. That's too warm. I want that to be a little bit less. These don't have to be perfect. I just want to see what this is going to give me. And by default, I will have a pretty good selection of colors. I can take some of these colors now. I'm going to make I'm just going to say, okay, this is a neutral. That's a really good, nice warm neutral. I'm going to mix these together. Look at that beautiful gray. That's a little cooler, but that's a very neutral gray. Wow. There's a little cooler gray. I'm just going to mix in my contaminated palette to see what I come up with. On this one, I'm just going to try, I'm going to paint just wet and wet. I'm going to drop a little color in here. I'm going to drop a little bit of this color in here. I want to see what happens when they mingle. Ooh, that's what I want to happen. So I'm not after necessarily dark or light, but I could put these on either ends just to fill it out. So this is my true out of the tube, my cool. Clean my brush pretty well. This is going to be my out of the tube warm. And then I am going to title this so I don't forget, because I will. Payne's Gray. Rust. So now I have that. That's great. Now I have a little guide for what I'm trying to paint. Have any questions, Carol?
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Oh, this is just take a warm and a cool color.
Yeah, I know.
By the way, the bathroom key is up by the door, and the blue bucket is clean water. The orange bucket is dump water. So have you figured it out? Your palette, one of your palettes, because I'm going to take another page.
Bathroom was open.
The bathroom is open, yes. So I'll try something different, just so you guys can see what I'm actually trying to do. There's my clean palette. I'm going to use the Prussian blue. There's going to be my Prussian blue. Add some water. I'm going to start mixing. I just bought this tube. I have no idea what it is. It's orange iron oxide. Let's try that. Kind of looks like the, oops, I dipped it in the wrong well. I'm going to mix that and the Prussian blue together a little bit. Oh, look at that. See, if I had a painting I wanted some green in, or it was more of a spring painting, I would probably use that. That's gonna, looks like it's gonna give me a pretty good range of greens. Maybe that's more of a landscape that I'm after. Kind of painting. That's a pretty good range. Wow. I'm gonna just mix these together to see what I can get for neutrals, more neutrals. These are two fairly bright colors.
Are they Winsor Newton?
No, they're M.Graham, but they can be any color that are your favorites. I'm not, the most of the paint that I have is M.Graham. I just like it. So that's a completely different range of color. I'm going to put that, there's my true color. And here's my true color. And now I'm just going to paint this I'm gonna use wet on wet. You don't have to paint this way. So I'm going to get some colors that are overlapping here. They're going to give me a third color. So this is Prussian blue. And I don't know why they name these things. Orange iron oxide. So that is a different palette than that. Yeah, it's a little brighter palette. I have more greens available. Here I do not. That might make a good winterscape, maybe, or oceanscape. This is a little bit more earthy. I've actually got a wider range here from this brighter blue through these greens, through this orange iron oxide. So I could do that with, in fact, I'm not going to take the time to do it now, but if you just do that with at least a couple of palettes, then you'll have something to work with. And then we'll pick one of these palettes and we'll make a painting from nothing. How fun. Hmm. All I'm trying to do is establish a good range of color down here to see what it looks like wet on wet. Huh?
Yeah. It's interesting what the colors do, I think. I really like this one.
Let me know how I'm doing on water, okay?
That's pretty too. That was blues. Yeah, exactly. There's that. Oh, cobalt. Cobalt and orange.
I do not want to forget when I start painting my gravity machine.
Back, sky and.
That's the only way watercolor works.
What makes some colors push another color away? Is there?
Pushing another color away.
So I noticed that when I added the phthalo green to something back here, when I put it into the color, it like really pushed the other
It's
color.
probably because what you put on top was wetter than what was underneath.
Okay.
That's how you
It
that's
wasn't-
how you get blooms.
Okay.
Would you repeat that? How you get blooms?
You put something wetter on top of something that's not as wet. And so the paint is going to the water is going to try to seek a level on that drier surface. So it's going to push out. It's trying to find a place to go. And along the edges, it's collecting paint particles as it's pushing out. And that's why you get that darker edge for blooms.
I mean, sometimes putting it in water it goes a lot more than other colors.
Yeah, it depends on the each paint. You have granulating paint and non-granulating, and what happens is for ultramarine, it's granulating paint because the particles are bigger, suspended in water.
You know, when I first saw those, Joe, I thought they were the inks.
Oh yeah,
Remember the inks?
Yeah,
with the
uh-huh.
Colors?
yeah. There's some hanging on the wall back there, but I like neutral palettes. I mean, that's really the basis of this. But with these techniques, that's a pretty interesting painting, and it's a pretty simple painting. You can do a lot by the wet on wet, the wet on damp, the dry on dry, the wet on dry. You can do a lot to make your painting interesting. I don't care what the subject matter is. Could be anything. Could be abstraction. Could be anything. Anyway, these are very simple, high horizon line landscapes. And so in a few minutes, we'll try a couple of these. I have a diagonal, a wedge, a dark one coming in from the left. Here, I want to do something different. So I have it coming in from the right. I have it kind of balanced by this little guy and this little guy. And then I had this quiet plane here, but I have left the light on this side and not that side. Same here to make it more interesting. And then you can do some wet and wet. And as that dries, when that's about half dry, you can put some water, clear water. Just make a shape, just make kind of a wave shape and see what happens. Here, I made a kind of a beach, but what I'm after here, I put some shadows under that where that back run or that bloom was happening. So it's an interesting transition. All I'm trying to do is make it interesting for the viewer. That's all I'm trying to do, because that's what they're gonna like. I mean, we're all in the entertainment business. We're trying to entertain ourselves, and if we give ourselves a good grade, then we'll share that. So anyway, I'll give you a couple minutes to finish this up. This is actually, I have a much better idea about how these two colors might look together. Now, I did it wet on dry and I did it wet and wet. So I suggest when you go home today or the next week, month, just try these. Because I'm sure you all have a drawer full of paint. don't we?
We have 4 drawers.
Okay, I'll pass out. Yeah, that's what I do. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Yeah, yeah, it's just, I never use phthalo green, it's just like, but maybe with some other colors that we can do something.
Yeah.
Just.
They're gonna give you, much more than you thought. Was, available besides just 2 colors.
Right, yeah.
Anyway, you can draw these, out if you're, done with the thing. Just, first of all, make a horizon line. So I will do this in my, pencil so you can kind of see it. If I can find it, yeah. So there's my, high horizon line. And in this case, let's make a low horizon line. Why not? There's my high and low. And on this guy, I am going to put something in going over about that far. I don't want this to end right in the middle. And for this one, I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to have a bigger one coming in. So there's my fabulous drawing. That's enough. And then I'm going to let watercolor paint itself. Yes. That's the way to do it, is to just take what it gives you. Like that bloom that I got, I had not planned on painting a tree line. Painting the big tree being the star. And that's what I ended up with because I let watercolor paint itself. That did not start out that way, but again, I had a big bloom, so why not?
Pretty thoroughly confused. Oh, that's good. Thank you. You know, it's sometimes work as a paper plate. Yeah, just have a toss away. You know. Sometimes he has them.
You know, nowadays when you have to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And here this morning, I
Yes.
threw away some of the lids. the
Yes,
square lids.
they're perfect
Yeah, for the.
to wash out.
That was
Yeah, that's a good idea.
What's a good idea? What did I miss?
The disposable pallets, you know.
A lid
Sometimes when
to
you
fast
try-
food, a little,
Here's what,
she has an itty, but do you have a paper plate or?
here's what I use.
See, she
I
has-
just use one of these and they have to be plastic.
Yeah, some new colors, you know.
Would you like this?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. That'll-
Anybody want a plate?
Second palette. Yeah, I'll take this away. I'm gonna try the zip. Yeah. What was that other new color you have? Gold?
Orange iron oxide.
Okay, thanks.
It's not that different from, I just spent $20 on a tube of paint. It's not that different. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. True confession, I am completely new at this. I don't like to.
Oh, that's okay.
So I'm sort of lost.
Again,
And I'll-
what are you lost about? I mean, no.
I don't know how to. She's not sure what we were asking her. Well, I don't know how to get the.
I just put a warm color on one side, put a cool color on the other side, and then start mixing them together.
You
and
did beautiful.
You did it. Yeah, that's all. we're after.
We did it. If nothing else.
You did it,
Sam.
Don't forget the
Yeah,
tamale.
exactly.
Molly guy. What we were talking about is They are using, if you want to, as a cheap alternative, or you want something to experiment with, all I'm using is a paper plate, but it's got a coating on it. So it's not, it hasn't got a bunch of fibers in it. So you want to use the one with the coating on it so the paint doesn't just soak in. So is everybody kind of ready? Yes? Because I want you to follow me kind of step by step on just the start of this.
So we're picking whichever two colors we want, right?
A cool and a warm.
Got it.
Yeah, I usually don't do a step by step. I usually leave you hang out to dry, but I'll do a step by step because I want you to see how I paint this. Instead of doing a little practice sheet, we'll actually paint something like it.
Of course.
And I do not have to follow this exactly. My extensive pencil drawing, I do not have to follow exactly. Okay. I spent a lot of time doing this, so I'm going to keep it all in the lines. That's why you do not want to draw, at least me, I do not want to draw a detailed drawing because then I'm captured. I have to paint that shape, whatever I drew. I can't deviate because I drew that very carefully. I like to let watercolor suggest things to me. So I'm always willing to kind of change. So I'm going to mix, I'm gonna not mix anything yet. I just want to use some clear water. Is everybody ready?
Yep.
Kind of, sort of. I'm going to just paint the top third of this with water. It's clear water. Doesn't have to be too wet. It just has to be wet. Give it a couple seconds to soak in. And I am not painting a particular kind of sky. I don't have sky reference that I'm using. I'm painting this out of my head. So the first thing I want to do is mix up some of my cool color because I want a blue sky. And remember that this is already wet, so whatever I put on it is going to make it wetter, and your paint's not going to be dry out as dark as you think, which is fine for the sky. I have a diagonal here. I'm going to make one stroke, There we go. And now I'm going to complement that with that. And now I'm going to clean my brush, and I'm going to use my warm color. And I don't want it that dark. And I'm going to make a stroke right through here. And that's going to paint a sky for me. Here's a mister. I want to introduce you to that. That's a mister. If I want this sky to move, I can just turn it this way and mist it. What happens? Now it's moving. Kind of interesting. I can turn this. I am master of the universe. I can turn this however I want to turn it. So there's my start. I've got some light coming from this side. Looks like to me. And I'm painting with something underneath the top of my pad. And for those of you who are adventurous, I am using a clean brush that has water in it. I'm going to introduce, the sheen is going off of this area right here. I'm going to introduce water into it and get a bloom. One stroke. And that's gonna make a bloom for me. So this is all painting itself. I'm gonna have a nice interesting edge here where those two colors met. Do not overpaint your strokes.
It'll be right.
I'm using this size brush, use a bigger brush. This is watercolor is painting itself right now. I just got it started. So has everybody got that? Everybody done? Okay, I'm gonna take my brush and I have some of this my cool color on it. And I want to paint dry on dry. So I'm going to blot my brush till it's dry. This is cold pressed paper. And what I want to do is not paint like I just painted it with the brush at an angle. I want to pull it across parallel to the paper like this. And I get that beautiful lacy stroke. Sparkles on whatever. It's like you were cleaning your brush. Or wiping it off on a piece of paper. I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. This is starting to dry. This, the gloss is off the paper over here. It's still glossy over here. I don't want to paint that yet. I'm gonna mix these two colors together to get kind of a little neutral gray. And I just want to put a little bit right here. That's going to be a distant, see how that edge is kind of holding, but it's softening out. Looks like a little tree line over there already. Already looks kind of like a landscape.
Is that drier paint? Not as, it's drier, that last thing that you then do that.
Yeah, it's not completely dry, but it's not soppy wet. It's about half and half. Sterling Edwards makes a mark. If I can make a mark through that and it stays, then it's dry paint. And if it closes back in like that, then it's going to be wetter. I'm going to dry my brush again. A little bit darker paint. I have a little dark over there. I am going to just take another swipe with this. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Now I'm going to just paint wet on dry. And I'm going to make kind of a wave kind of shape. That kind of looks like a wave to me. And I am going to use my warm color again. I've got some warm up there. I'm going to put a little bit of warmth down there. And this has to dry just a little bit more. With the gloss goes, it's glossy right now. You can see that. And then I'm going to put some water on it. See, this is already blooming. Patience, grasshopper. See, to show you, that's forming a tree line going to nothing. But if I just introduce just a little bit of paint right here now, it's still pretty damp. Good. That's kind of cool. Still pretty damp. This is still going to be damp. This is still not ready yet. It's still pretty glossy. There's a bead of water forming right here, so be patient. I don't think this is quite ready for my wet on dry yet. It's drying from the side. Oh, you know what? I think I'll just add a little right here. I'm going to use some salt. Some of that's going to take, some of it's not.
Do you pass the salt, please?
Sure.
No pepper. The salt. No pepper.
By the way, I did find at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
This is sea salt, but it's a grind, so you can actually grind it, and it's much better than the sea salt out of the bottle because it comes in various chunks, sizes of that. So I'm going to take a clean water, and I am just going to do a little dance there. That's going to be my background. See how that's painting that wave, starting to kind of cool. Still not dry enough up there yet, but that could be painting itself. See, that's starting to make that wave. That was a better shot right there and there. This was pretty wet right here. I'm going to add a little bit of darker, drier paint right under here. That's the shadow under the wave that's forming. So I've used wet and wet, wet on damp, wet on dry. I haven't done dry on dry. I haven't done the wet on dry yet. That's the last thing that you'll do because this wants to be completely dry. Look at that nice sky that painted itself. It's there, but it's kind of not there. Ooh, nice sky. Ooh. Next time you do the dry on dry, just leave a little bit more white paper. That's okay. That's okay. That's why we're here.
I have to do it again, Joe.
The salt is right here, and here is the other salt. The sea salt grind. Look at that. Isn't that cool? So let me see if that's ready for Now it still feels kind of cool, but I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm just gonna add a little my Payne's gray and my rust together. And so I have a nice neutral gray. Yep, that's gonna work. There's my dry on dry. And I'm gonna put a few trees over here. Maybe I will put something that would resemble a building over there. And while the light's coming from over here, and while that is drying, I'm going to put the reflection or the shadow under here. And there probably would be a little bit of one under here. Maybe. I don't know.
Your second stroke on the bigger land mass, did you dry off your brush and then go back in?
Yeah, it was a little bit dark, so I just went back in and I lifted it. Just like that.
With your brush dryer?
Yes. I always have this usually in my hand. I'm going to put some dry and dry down here. Just roughing that beach up a little bit. Put some seaweed on there or something. If I wanted to, I could, while this hill is still damp, I'm going to just put a few little scrapes, squeegees out in that. And I might put a few things on the beach down here. You have to kind of pay attention to your paper. It's going to be a pretty interesting wave, I think. And while that is drying, I'm going to cover that up. I'm going to cover this up. My paint wants to be thin enough to release. So I'm just going to spatter a little bit. If it's too wet, nothing's going to happen. Going to make it a little bit more interesting. I'm gonna keep using this same brush. And I think I want this because it's telling me that. I want to make a little darker here. I'm gonna turn my pad upside down. And I'm gonna pick some of my blue, my cool. I'm just gonna see what happens. I give you permission. Blend the top out of that a little bit. I have a dark over here. I think I want to do kind of cool. You learn so much by painting. And it doesn't take too much. I like my nice pure color. I like that blue. I like that. Those are my pure colors up here. And then they start to neutralize. And so now I can put my sandpipers in. I can put my, of course, my seagulls in. I could put a, I think I will. I'm gonna put, I'm just gonna take my, just take a pencil and take my Prismacolor dark pencil. And I'm gonna put just a few little scribbles down here, just to kind of balance that. So that's a beach full of debris, sticks, whatever. Anyway, so now I've got a little painting from nothing. Still damp. Then you can go ahead and you can do whatever you want. And then I could go back up here. I could use my quinacridone gold, which I didn't use. And if I wanted a little yellow right there to accentuate the light, here's my quinacridone gold. And I'm going to turn this upside down, and I'm going to use my arm, not my wrist. And I can just do a little stripe color. See how that changed that? I can wash that edge out if I want, just one stroke. And so now I've got a little something from nothing. I love all this little stuff that happens with watercolor. It's kind of cool. We're gonna do one more and then we're gonna take a little break. So that means we ought to do this one simpler. I'm trying, when I demo, I try to kind of push it because I want to try a bunch of different stuff. That doesn't mean I have to do that on every painting. So I'm just going to wet the top half of this again. This clear water. I'll keep this one really pretty simple. I'm going to take some of my blue and I'm going to try to actually kind of paint a sky. Oh, it's already painting itself. Look at that. I'm done.
Are you using the same colors?
Yeah, I'm using the same colors
Should
just
we use
because
different
they're
ones?
handy.
Or-
Gonna make it a little darker up here to balance this when it goes in. I'm gonna use a little neutral in here.
Did you paint over the mountain range with water?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just painted the top 2/3
Okay.
with water. And if I want this thing to float like that, I'm just gonna turn it like this. I want it to be more horizontal. I kind of like this neutral coming on in there. So I'm gonna put a little swipe of it. So that sky's painting itself, and I think that was less than 10 strokes.
So nine.
It's only a piece of paper, so just see what happens. Just see what it will give you. And I can also use a Kleenex or a paper towel. I could blot some clouds. I want to blot right here. Look at that. Look at that. My God, I didn't paint that sky. The watercolor painted that sky, but it's pretty cool. And of course, it's going to dry back. In fact, it's drying back right now. So while it's still damp, I'm going to put another dark right there because I want that to balance. You learn so much about design by doing these. Look how cool that is. I didn't do that. I just got it started. All I did was touch the paper. Oh no, I gotta go fix that. Oh no, I gotta go fix that. All I did was touch the paper. And you learn so much about timing. Like, when is it time to blot? If I wanted to blot. So I have got, let's see. How do I want to do this? I don't want to. I think I'll do it that way. I want to use that dry brush. Only I want to do it warmer. So I'm just going to mix a little bit of these together. My cool and my warm. And I've got kind of an idea about how I want to paint this. I'm going to paint something in here to balance this guy. And I want the light to be coming from here. So I think I'm going to turn this pad over and do that. That's enough texture. Oh, look at that sky. That's pretty cool. Watercolor did that for me. I just got it started. This is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about design. It'll help you. What am I going to do to balance that other guy off? I'm going to do something like that. And I have to let that dry. This is getting dry. Maybe this is a good time to put in that distant hill back there. Let's mix some of my cool color because that recedes. And I'm getting a little fuzz. It'll be okay. But there's my basic design. I kind of like it. Dun, dun, dun. Gotta wait for that to dry a little bit. I'm getting a nice little tree line right there. So that's wet on wet, wet on damp, dry on dry, and this is the start of wet on wet. I can when I put this in here, I'm going to put some wet and damp, and I'm just going to put a darker color and see what happens. So I'm giving it a few minutes to dry. There'll be a lighthouse up there. Yeah. What about a lighthouse?
There's something going on.
Because we are masters of the universe. Remember that, Mac? Masters of the universe. That's what you all are.
Yes, I remember very well.
So this is starting to work. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to just make a stroke. Whoops. I want to make a stroke. Okay, 2. I just want to see what happens. Gravity is taking it down a little bit. But I'm liking the design of it. I am going to put a touch of water right here. This is just clean water. I'm going to put a touch of water right there. See what happens. I'm going to get a background. It's going to paint itself. See how it drifted down? Because that's where my edge was, and that's the reason I'm using gravity, and that's where that bead of water is. And I'm gonna get a nice little bloom there that's gonna break that up. I like that it just goes and then goes away. I'm not gonna put anything over here because I have this over here. That's almost done. Put in a few reeds. Put in a little cooler color to force you to look here. But I have to wait for that to dry a little bit. I just love watercolor. Ooh, look how much that changed that. Just a few strokes. Still have sparklies. I like this one better because this was too much. But again, it's a demo. I wouldn't have, if I hadn't have done too much spatter, salt, whatnot. That's very interesting right in here. That's where I'm gonna look to start with. See how much that paint dried back, that yellow? When I first put it on, it was really quite something. And whatever you're doing this morning, it's almost a lunch break, whatever you're doing this morning, I want you to pick 2 different colors this afternoon and try something else. Try your favorite subject. If you want to do the sandpipers, if you want to do a winterscape, if you want to do the city, if you want to do an abstract, it's all beneficial. Nice. So there you go. It's that easy. She's already done painting. She's just sitting here. What the hell? I'm gonna make this part just a little bit darker. Want it just a little bit darker. There we go. And I can use a rigger, or I can use a dagger brush, or I can use a pencil. I think I'm going to just put a bunch of scribbling, just to denote that, yes, there's some reeds in there. Texture. Ooh, that's good. Yeah. And jump on those reeds. Have fun. Yes, and I am going to do that. Back to that big brush. Very simple painting. From nothing. I had no idea what we were gonna do when we started there. Isn't it fun to see watercolor paint itself? Yeah. At least I think so.
Do you use a particular kind of masking tape that doesn't bleed?
Yes, I use, I can send you the link to this. It's Amazon and it's cheap. And I want a low tack masking tape. And it comes three rolls in a pack, and it's inexpensive, and it works well, I think.
You're gonna send that out with just with general handout as well.
I'm sorry.
You'll send that out.
Yeah, I just wrote it down. I'm gonna send that out with a link.
Used to use the dollar store tape.
I used to get it at Walmart. It was a duck, D-U-C-K, not duct, tape. And I'm gonna try something up here. Way in the distance.
If they're using that one that said tape, and I didn't even get it. The way down, yeah. That, no, that one I got pretty cheap, Joe's, try it, I love it. Yes, I love it, I don't remember that, I really liked it. I just thought it was nice.
There it is. There's that little English cottage with something next to it.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just. It's worth.
What a good view.
it?
By the way, for doing these little things, I will do anything here's a little reflection. I'm just using a pencil. That's all I'm doing. I'm just using a pencil. If I want another read in there, I can put it in with the pencil. Doesn't have to be perfect.
Cheap Joe's. It's just.
Anyway, anybody have any questions? So we're using wet and wet, wet on dry, dry on dry, and in the between wet on damp in spades. If I let this dry completely, what I'm tempted to do, and maybe I'll do later, is I want to put a wash over this whole area right here, because I want to really attract your attention. This is too distracting me. I could just put a wash over that and leave that shaft of light coming down. Maybe I'll do that later. I could put, I kind of like that up there. I'm just going to leave it alone because we started off painting this reference and they look completely different. Yay. They look different. Yay. Anybody have any questions, comments, success stories? Mac, are you all done?
I did something before you started the demo. So I made a nice mess, but there it is.
Okay, hang on. Let me see. Oh, that's nice. Cool. So what you want those, paint that again and make sure that you use the wet and wet, the wet on damp, the wet on dry, and the dry on dry.
This your dry brush here.
Yeah, that could be the dry down here where you're pointing.
Right.
It's
right.
it's that sparkle or lacy kind of stroke.
Yep.
But your values are very good. I like your design too. Okay, 12:30. Is that okay? 12:30-ish. Let's put it that way. Yeah, it's gonna be an ish. You can keep painting or you can grab a bite or whatever.
Can I
Or
ask a question that maybe you can answer when you come back from the break?
Oh, I can answer it right now.
Last time I was at your studio, you showed some different colored inks. And
Yes.
I wondered if you could share the specific colors. When I looked it up, there were so many different kinds. I got crazy with it. And there was one that you had that was kind of blues and kind of reds. So specifically those.
Okay. I have 2 bottles of this. And here are the bottles. Here's what I use for the, you can't see me. That would be helpful if you could see me. Yes, I do a lot of these things with acrylic inks. And here are the 2 inks.
One's off screen. There we go.
Sepia and indigo. And I just bought big bottles of them because and they're Daler Rowney FW. And also white. Don't forget white. Which is, yeah, it's the same thing. You can just get a little bottle of that. You can get a little bottle of both of them. Don't buy a big bottle. Anyway, I could use the acrylic ink on top of this. You know what? I think I'm going to put, just for fun, I'm going to put a little, once you look at these later, then you can decide, you know, that's what was missing there. I'm going to put something over here on the bank, just to bridge that, the something. And maybe I'll even put a, I'm going to use a pastel pencil. I'm going to put a white bird. Just to have more birds, but it makes, it gives it a little bit more depth. So, you know, you can, these can go very quickly when you're doing them. And what I would do actually is, I'm going to take this off of here. I'll do this right after lunch. I just wanted to, I'll just leave this up for now. And let me shut that down. Let me go back to here. And I am signed in. I'm not sure what she's doing here, but here's two colors, and he's using gouache, and he's using ultramarine and burnt sienna. So I'll just let this play just so you can see how he does that. You can make any of your colors gouache, and this didn't have to be gouache, but it's a very good color combination.
On the white paint in this parking lot.
So I'll just let that play. It's still being recorded.
Okay, I'll see you in 45 minutes. So it's 27 degrees outside, a little cold for painting in water media. But as long as I'm inside the car here, I should be able to just work through the windshield. And I've got my stuff here set up in my lap, a watercolor sketchbook. And it's primed with grayish watercolor just to knock down the white. They say that ice is made of just oxygen and hydrogen, two elements. So to paint it, whoa, I'm going to use two colors, just blue and burnt sienna. Let's see what happens. I've got the white wash.
But I don't see her. You have to put the camera.
Crimson lighting for the car. This is a small palette area, only about 2.5 inches by 4.5 inches. So there's not much room to move here.
Yeah, they close at noon.
Now I'll start out with a cool shadow color.
They can.
I'm not using white yet
They
because I
can
want
hear
the
you,
variations in
which
the
is
tone.
okay, but just over here, so it's not right by them.
I want it to settle in unevenly into that shadow color. It's fairly dark. It's a little bit cool. But I want it to be kind of grainy because that's the way that snow looks. And if I introduce just a touch of white, it becomes a slightly smoother color of blue without that graininess. So that's what you can do with gouache, is control the texture or the graininess by using a little bit of white. Now I also have this building in the distance. It's a rectangular shape behind the snow pile there.
The reason I'm showing you this is because
using a brush.
You can paint anything, even a pile of snow in a parking lot.
He's amazing. He is.
Yeah, Gurney's really good.
Brush in a stipply way, hitting the surface with the tip of the flat brush to get that texture of the concrete. Now I want that flat tone again, so I'm bringing in some more gouache for the sky. It's kind of a milky textured paint. There's a car that's parked next to the snow pile. I need to draw in the car, and I'm going to do it with these blue lines in the chrome that's reflecting the sky behind us. And next, I want to have a 1/4 inch long flat to paint in the shapes of the darks of that car. This way of painting, I sometimes call painting with spots and dots, because really what you're doing is you're placing small or large shapes or dots in position, not worrying so much about line like you would if you were drawing with a pencil, but more an impressionistic approach that places light and dark shapes next to each other.
Oh, cool. Hey, what? No, it's fun.
The nice thing about a long, flat quarter-inch brush like this is you can paint all sorts of shapes, like that radiator grill shape or the mirror shape, or the shapes that are behind the car. So I'm just putting in some spots and dots and dashes and flashes back there, building it up out of rectangles, like almost out of Legos.
About 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I know other
Now
people
that
are-
car is anchored to the ground and the snow in front of it by a fairly deep cast shadow. I'll mix that with ultramarine and burnt sienna
No, they don't. They want somebody. to buy
and
them
lose that whole edge of the bottom of the car.
mansion.
Yeah.
And then that way they get their
Yes,
property tax.
they don't.
More spots in the background.
So
Where are you looking?
step up.
As I look at the snow pile, the shadow side is cool, but there's a warm edge where the light is scattering under the surface of the ice and coming out on the shadow side.
But that's not. the thing, it's all the-
So I want to keep that effect of that warm glowing light by keeping some of that underpainting color showing through.
See, this is mostly transparent watercolor. You can see it. And what he's doing, and you can make gouache with that white paint that I showed you. And you can go back and you can paint this after the fact, which is really
Oh, that's
handy because that way you're not inhibited by masking or painting around. You can just keep painting your normal way to paint.
He started with a neutral palette, a wash over the whole thing.
Yeah, you can do that because now he's going back with the gouache to get back the light.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Where do you see the ice when it gets done?
If I spend too
Or
long
the
looking at
snow.
the shadow side, I can forget that the lightest value in the shadow is nowhere near as bright as those illuminated areas in the sunlight. So let's wet that whole shadow side with water. And while it's wet, I can drop in a few little dark accents for some of the hollows of the snow, just to accentuate that textural character without going too light and dark in that shadow. I just touch it with the edge of the brush, the corner of the brush.
Now he's painting wet on damp. So he started painting wet and wet, and now it's he painted some wet on dry, and now it's wet and damp.
Those little blobs of color should spread out a little bit. Now you might wonder, why just use two colors when you have a whole palette full of colors that you could use and make it more rich and vibrant in color? Well, there's an argument to be made for speed, efficiency, and economy. I've only got a small amount of space, a small amount of time, and I don't want to waste a whole lot of colors. But more than that, I want to explore the range of possibilities of each of these pigments. You really learn about each pigment when you just do one against another like this. And
Yeah.
it's kind of like composing for a piano and violin. You explore what those two instruments can do together.
What brown, what blue?
The only other color I've added is alizarin crimson. I brought that back in because I used to touch it out on the car to get that reddish color. These strokes are a little too light. They'll dry darker. Gouache sometimes shifts when it dries. There's a lot you can do with just color temperature, meaning how orangey it is or how bluish it is. For those of you not too familiar with color, sometimes this relationship is called complementary. If the two colors, if you mix them together and you get gray, then the colors are seen as
Yeah,
complementary.
we're just doing some kind of like
Blue.
little study. So I don't
So violet and yellow or red and green can be used in complementary relationships. When mixing a color, my first thought is about the value. Is it light or is it dark? And then my second thought is usually, is it cool or is it warm? This limited palette keeps me in that dialogue of just warm versus cool and value, without really even thinking too much about hue. That would probably be the third thing I'd think about after thinking about value and color temperature. I think about the hue, where it is on the color wheel, yellow, red, green, or whatever. And then the final thing you think about when you're mixing colors is saturation. Whatever you paint toward the light, you're dealing with less overall chroma or saturation or brightness of the colors. The colors are grayer than they would be if you're painting away from the light. In fact, if I switch the camera around in the opposite direction, you can see how colorful all the cars and trees and the sky are. But in this direction, everything organizes mainly according to value, with lighter things farther back. And anything that's in shadow is a fairly deep shadow. So ultramarine blue and burnt sienna are completely adequate for painting a subject like this, since I don't need to get into brighter colors. If I did need to, if I was painting away from the light, then I could use more full chroma colors. All these branches lend themselves pretty well to painting with a dry brush effect, because I just want the texture of the branches. I can't paint every single individual branch. So by splaying out the tip of the brush and then spreading it out with somewhat dry paint on the fibers, I can get that texture that sort of simulates the look of the branches against the sky.
So here's dry on dry. That's one of the four.
This is part of the fun of painting for me, is trying to look at nature and all its complexity and variety, and trying to think how I can translate what I'm seeing into something the brush can actually accomplish, whether it's dry or wet, or just a whisper of pigment on the brush, or loaded with juicy pigment. The character of the branches and the leaves here, the character here is blobbier, evergreen foliage. So I have a wetter brush, and I'm moving it kind of randomly. I try to let my hand and fingers have their own mind. I was reading that an octopus has a brain at the base of each tentacle, and every tentacle has its own personality. And that's kind of what your fingers have to have, is they have to have a mind of their own. You can see there's a cast shadow of the whole snow pile on that dark asphalt, and that explains that dark edge in the lower left. Now I want to mix a warm color, fairly high in value, to lighten the darks on the curb adjacent to that wet driveway that leads back to the train tracks on the right.
I have to eat something. I have
Well, Jeanette's doing shopping for the holiday feast, so naturally she's taking a little longer than 45 minutes, and that gives me enough time to finish up some final details. It's fun just contemplating this complicated scene, doing a speed painting from a parked car. I can always use the colored pencils at the end.
Yep.
Hit them with a little water to soften them up, and they'll blend into the painting.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Just two colors. basically it's two colors. He made the red car, but it's like I put the yellow on there.
Well, the red of that tree kind of balances out.
That's nice, but it's accidental.
Give a little bit, give
Yeah.
the red of the car something to talk to.
Yeah, this is a little red down here, a little pink, a little balances this triangle. I think in triangles. I want the viewer to bounce between these three things. It's the same thing with any color. This is blue, this is blue. Wherever I use this nice little zigzag coming in here with the pile of snow. It's all stuff that if you just paint, it'll be obvious. And you could break this into an abstract painting pretty easily, actually. So anyway, so that's just one little thing. One little thing. Everybody's not quite back yet, but I want to make sure that everybody gets what we're doing today. So
Pick something, Joe.
yeah, you're gonna, but I want to make sure because I'm gonna do something after if I can find my glasses. I found my glasses. These don't have to be limited palette. You can do faces, figures. Usually,
There are so many colors of paints recommended by so many different artists.
oh, let me
You can-
find this. Here, here.
Welcome back to episode 6 of
Yeah. So if you were at a workshop and somebody on the materials list told you to go out and you're going to be using Payne's Gray, they probably should tell you what brand to buy or a particular color, alizarin or ultramarine or any of the standard colors, burnt sienna. This is all supposed to be Payne's Gray.
Wow.
Isn't that interesting? Look at this
Yep.
one. Look at Schminke. Look at that Payne's Gray. Does that look like Payne's Gray to you?
No, it's
That
mousy.
looks like neutral tint to me.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I picked this one. Has a good range and it's blue. That's why I use Payne's Gray. Nita Engel is actually the one that taught me about Payne's Gray because she has that on her palette. It's not black, it's Payne's Gray. She doesn't really use neutral tint. She makes her own. Mix a little bit of any brown, any earth tone with that, and you'll neutralize it. So anyway, I thought this was very interesting. I'm going to leave that up for a few minutes so you guys can see which one you like. So I know everybody has a, well, I know I buy nothing but Daniel Smith. I buy nothing but Holbein or whatever. I don't have any allegiance. If I do, it's to M. Graham because I like the way they put honey into it. The paint lasts long and it goes on smoother. So that was the only reason I like M. Graham. And they don't have 100 colors. They have 50. We don't need all those colors. We can make our own colors as you're discovering. Yeah, that has to be dry for you to really look
I
at.
have to be dry first.
Which one I have? Oh. I have a question here. So, well, this is on bad paper, but so
Look at that.
this needs something over here to
it's kind of like it just goes off. I don't know if you.
No, I wouldn't, I would leave, that's an entry point.
Okay, to go back.
That's an entry point.
Okay.
If you wanted to put a little bit more of that, just use some pastel.
Some of this.
No, if you wanted a little bit more cloud, if you
Oh,
wanted
right,
to
right.
just use, try here. This is
Oh.
really easy to use. And I highly recommend using pastel with watercolor.
Right, yeah, I have some Conti crayon.
Huh?
Conti,
Yeah, you can
is that the
use,
same thing?
no,
How's it?
these are pastels.
I
These
don't-
are soft pastel.
Oh, so Conti is harder?
Well, it's just, it's kind of more like an oil pastel for me.
Oh, okay. Oh, let me.
Anyway, you can just try it. I mean, now's the time to try stuff.
Right.
So, and then you can just blend it in. See, I can rub that in, and nobody can tell it's even unless you told me.
Right, right, right. And then.
Yeah,
so
you can
this
go
needs to
back and
be
put some
like-
little. Yep, you can do exactly that. You can put some little glints, highlights. You want to do.
What did you use? You used pins and.
Oh, no, I used I used indigo and I used that gold, twin gold.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I'm gonna use. That's what that, this winter. Ah, bless you. Thank you. I don't like.
You know, I must have got a whiff of some dust or something.
Huh?
It just started sneezing, so that's just me, don't worry. You can, I think she did outstanding, better than when I started.
Rob, did you learn anything? Oh, yeah. There you go. This is gorgeous. I love this. And the sky is beautiful.
Everything else is a little muddy, but no. And then she could go look at it, and then that's how I do it, I look at it, and now we work on it some more.
I know, me too. I don't like it when it says just figure it out. It's like, well,
Yeah.
just follow along with you.
Tell me what to do.
You know, I want to remember when I follow along with him because I'm learning. But he's a man who can't follow along. No, he goes very fast. You look down and you look up and there's something awesome. Yeah. Just 3 steps away.
Hey, this looks great. I get that right. Yeah.
Okay, anybody have any questions? No, good.
Yes. No, that's what-
I'll just pass that around
Thank you.
so you can see what it is. I tape off a new page. You know, one of the benefits of doing this, as I said before, is to me, there are two main things to pay attention to have a successful painting is drawing and design. It's not just
Oh, my
technique, although technique could be a differentiator for you guys from making you a little bit different than the artist next to you. And that is why
Do you need more?
I don't know where they are.
No, I tried it in the middle because I already have the edges taped, so we'll see how that. Thank you though.
Oh, That is why I thought this was important. By the way, I'll show you my failures. I actually made a movie about this that I'm not going to show because I've made a better movie. This one, painting yellow, red.
You're not on there. Yeah.
Oh, I'm not on there. Good, thank you. Nobody hollered at me from out there. Let me share this again. Let me close this out. Did everybody get the Payne's Gray? The difference in brands on color. So just because somebody told you to get a certain color, they should have told you what brand to get, because I do use some Daniel Smith, I do use some Holbein, but this is something that I would try in my off time. I'll do a workshop on this eventually. Local color, just like it is. Yellow value study underpainting, red value study underpainting, blue value study underpainting. This is the first one I tried from this, and it's just so overworked it's ridiculous. But at least I knew that the concept worked. I got all these colors by using just that. I think I did a yellow. I think I did that yellow underpainting about all this. And I tried to paint.
Okay, I'll let him know.
I'm showing this to you.
When I last had
sorry?
any communication with him, she was in, still in the hospital.
Joe, this is Mac. Can I ask you a question for clarification, please?
Sure.
Yeah, this underpainting, if you did the yellow underpainting, do you use the normal colors again to do the actual final painting?
Here's what I did. I'll share my screen again. This is just another way to paint. That's all it is.
Correct.
Here's what I did. I do a value study, and instead of doing the value study up above the painting, which I usually do to just show you for example, that's my value study, light, dark, midtone.
Yes.
I did the same thing, only I did it in a color. There's my light, there's my dark, there's my midtone, light, dark, midtone, light, dark, midtone. And I just wanted to see how that would affect, because we're painting in transparent watercolor, how that would affect my final painting.
Right.
What would it do to it? Because this is no underpainting. So I'm trying to combine the value, I'm trying to combine the value study with what did I do with it? The value study and underpainting at the same time. So this is the result of that.
Yeah, but
So
my question really is, on the value study in yellow, in the final painting that you did, what colors did you put in? The local color?
I just painted this again right on top of that and that and that.
Okay, all right, got it.
I just painted my normal local color painting. I did the same painting 4 times. Only this one had an underpainting, an underpainting, an underpainting.
Right.
And they look a little bit different.
Correct.
They have a certain quality to them. You can see the yellow peek through. This is warmer. This is warmer than that. The red, I think, for me, was the most interesting combination because it was a lot more complementary. The blue was probably my least favorite, but the students like that one the best, so go figure. So all I did was, that's the reason I had everybody just paint this painting, just copy it first. And then try your underpainting. This didn't have to be this yellow. This didn't have to be this red or this blue. I just wanted something cool, a warm. I just picked arbitrarily a red, a yellow, and a blue. So it depends on what you're painting. If I'm painting a fall scene, I might want this to be my underpainting. If I'm painting, or this one, if I'm painting a winter scene, I might want this to be my underpainting. It's a little bit dark for winter, but you get the idea. But I might want the complement. What's the complement of blue? Orange. If I wanted a winter painting, I for sure would have done my underpainting value study in orange.
No,
My next goal in this is to, these are primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. I'm going to try purple, green, and orange just to see if they make a difference. But I kind of liked the result, and people are going to say, well, how did you do that? That looks different than a normal painting. It has a little bit more interest to it. It has a little bit more color in it, etc. So I don't care what the subject matter is, still life, people, abstract, doesn't make any difference. I like doing underpaintings, but I've always done them with acrylic. I have never combined a value study and an underpainting together, and especially using transparent watercolor. So that was the big deal for me to discover that. So here, side by side, that's kind of what they look like. So, and that's in your cluster folder. I'm pretty sure. If it's not, I'll put it in there.
Yeah, no, it's in there. I saw it. It's great.
Good. Yeah, it's a really nice, I usually like to try stuff. I can't help myself. I want to try stuff. It keeps me curious, keeps me going. So what I want to do is make sure that you know what we're doing here.
Okay.
So it doesn't have to be complicated, and this can be any of these subject matters. It could be this, it could be this, it could be land, it could be seascape, could be sunflowers, could be the cityscape. So let me just do a very, very simple painting. Just you don't have to do this, but I just want it down. So, and I am still, I haven't stopped recording, so we've had all the videos and everything else in here. Yep. So
You've
if I
got
just,
somebody else talking with you.
sorry,
There's somebody else talking.
not now. Okay, I'm just going to do this. I don't have any idea what I'm going to paint. So, but I want you to know that there is a third down, and here is my going to be my sky. So this is wet on wet. I could label this wet on wet, and I'm just going to paint a sky. And my brush. Nope.
Are we just following along with you,
No.
Joe?
You're
No?
just watching me.
Okay.
So there's my sky. Hey, it actually looks like a sky, and I was cleaning my brush. How about that? I'm going to warm that sky up just a little bit. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So there's my wet. Here's going to be my dry. And I'm using this bigger brush. I highly suggest you use this bigger brush. I'm going to turn that for a second so it drifts horizontally instead of vertically. So I'm drying my brush. I have a dry brush. Oil painter, if you're painting in oil, it could be called scumbling or something like that. Look at that sky. Wow, it's pretty cool. So I'm just going to clean my brush. There, I clean my brush. So that's the second part of this. And I'm going to put in, let's see, I'm going to make this more neutral now. I'm going to mix these two colors together. I don't care what colors you use, doesn't make any difference. I'm going to put a tree here, so I think I'm going to put this in. I'm just going to make a diagonal. That's all I did was make a diagonal. In fact, what I think I'm going to do is put a little taste of wet sand or a beach. I'm cleaning my brush again. There. And now all I'm going to do is make this darker, and I'm going to go like this. Want that to be darker. So that's going to be darker. Want that to go over. So I'm getting some bleed here. That's the wet on the damp. That's really painting itself pretty nicely. There's my wet sand. And I'm not going to touch that. I should have made that a little bit lower. I could make this a little bit higher if I wanted to. I'm just trying to do this very quickly and very easily for you. And I'm making this up. But I kind of like it. Here is some wave action. That dry brush again. There we go. Wow, it's painting itself, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. I'm going to make this darker yet. Mix these colors together till I get this nice neutral. Here's what I wanted. That is in front of that. That's what I wanted. Hey, we're almost there. So wet and wet. I'm going to put some wet and damp. I already did some wet and damp right here. Look at how nice that is, just mixing together. This was dry on dry. This was actually dry on dry. This was wet on dry. I've got that nice little edge to it. I can, at this point, go back. I'm scribbling. Look what happens when it goes into the paint that I just put down. Look at these start to appear.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. I could be done. I could be done right now. In fact, I'm going to say I'm done right now because I have to let this dry. But here's going to be my birds up here if you want. I could put anything out here. I could put the Channel Islands, and I could go back and I could do this. I could scrape in here. I think I'm just going to do this with water. Clean water would probably work better. See how that appears? Isn't that cool?
Yeah.
See, I'm making something out of nothing. I had no idea what I was going to do. But I have wet and wet. I have wet on dry. I have wet on damp. And I have dry on dry. So there we go. There, my little painting. And if you just want to learn how watercolor works, doing these is invaluable. I'm going to finish it. I'll put something in here. I'll put a boat or I'll put a something. But I wouldn't have to do anything. I could look at this This is a contemporary landscape. I could look at this every day for a long time, and it would tell me something different. So we painted that in 10 minutes. I'll say 10 minutes. I really like the way this happened. I want one more going down through here. Cool. Look
How
at that.
large, how large is the sheet, Joe?
That's the beauty of watercolor. Wow. When this
Yeah.
drops completely, I'm going to put a little tint over that. Yeah, I'm just gonna knock that back. I don't want white paper there. I want it through here.
Yeah.
And up there. So, but just a little tint of that. In fact, here, let's just do it right now. I'll show you how I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take my crappy brush and I'm gonna put a little paint on it. See if I can ruin my little masterpiece here. I just didn't want that white. That's all. Here we go. Ta-da! Sign it. Oh, I can't sign it yet. It's still wet. Darn.
Is this a quarter sheet size?
This is yeah, that's 9 by 12.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I'm still going to want to go back over that a tad, but I want to let it dry first. So anyway, look at that. Remember when I put that sky in, I was cleaning my brush because I had a lump of Payne's gray in it and I was scrubbing it out. That's a cool sky.
It is.
And I just left it alone for it to paint itself. And then I started painting this while that was drying. And then I put this guy in there, and then I put this guy in here. Now, if I put a tree in here, I could put a palm tree. I could put a pine tree. I'm not going to do anything. That's South Carolina. That's a dune. And there's the beach. There's path down to the beach or whatever. I am going to put some birds in there later, but not yet. I don't want to make it too abstract. Anyway, I kind of like this for something from nothing. So you could do, if you had more than one pad, you could do a lot of these in an hour. You could do at least 3 or 4 paintings in an hour. Just go from one to another to another to, oh, I've got that color in my brush. I'll go over here and paint that. Does that make sense to you, Trudy?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Candy?
Yeah, someday it will.
Huh?
Someday it will.
Well, I want to make sure these are, you get it.
Start.
Yeah, I know, but you get it. It's bigger brushes, smaller paper.
Yeah.
I would try, is that ultramarine?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you have burnt sienna? Let me give you some burnt sienna just to try.
I just brought this.
Hi, honey.
And where's my burnt sienna?
What's up? What's up? Exactly what are you doing?
Without my glasses, trying to read a tube of paint. You know, they do that on purpose. Because they don't want you to know what series it is. Series 1 is the cheapest and Series 4 is the most expensive. And I somehow end up buying Series 4 all the time.
Yeah, you see what I do is I walk in and I go, Jerry, I don't want the kids, here's the list, go get them.
There you
I
go.
can't read them anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope this makes sense to you. Look, I got a hidden sun coming up or going down. Because that's what watercolor gave me. I love this.
Joe, I have a question. This is Nancy.
Yes.
I see that you're painting in a portrait mode as opposed to the horizontal landscape mode. Could you elaborate on that, please?
I paint both. I also paint square, especially when I paint abstractly, because I can turn it all forward 90 degrees, 90 degrees. I just picked it. I didn't pick this. I just knew what I wanted to do because I can do a painting in 4 lines, and I just did one. So if I'm doing a painting in 4 lines.
Could we see you, Joe, instead of your graphic?
Yeah, I'm gonna change that. It's much more fun to look at me than look at you. Okay, I can do a painting in 4 lines. So here's a vertical, and here's a horizontal. Doesn't make any difference. I have a horizon line. I'm gonna put the horizon line here, and I'm gonna put this one down here. So I have a horizontal line. I'm going to put a couple of the diagonal lines in. Here, there's a diagonal, there's a diagonal, and then I'm going to do a vertical. I can do a painting out of that. There's my whatever. This one's going to be darker. I can do the same thing here. There's my diagonal. Here's another diagonal. I don't want these to be the same. And here's my vertical. So I can do a painting either way. And that's basically what I was doing here. Horizontal, there's my verticals, diagonal, diagonal. I was going to put a tree in here, but I like this so much I didn't do it. So does that help? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes, thank you.
And this was the wet and wet. These guys were both wet on dry and damp. And this guy was, these 2 guys right here and right here were dry on dry. And that made for an interesting combination of edges. That's all it did. It was always about the edges. So I'm hoping that makes sense. So now that I did that, I'm going to take a little bit of my gray color, and I'm just going to one stroke, one stroke, one stroke, and I didn't disturb too much of what was underneath. So don't paint like this because you're just going to pick up the paint. Just go for it. So anyway, both of those are here, and that's all this painting was. Here is my vertical, and I could pull a vertical up through there. Maybe I will later. But I kind of like it open. Now for that salad, I'm going to eat cookies. You'll notice something too. Now that I'm looking at this design-wise, here's a dark, here's a lot of contrast right here. That's where I'm going to look at first. But I've got my dark up here in the sky, I've got my dark right here, and I've got my dark over here. So I've got that ping pong bounce over. If I wanted to make the true path to the beach, all I would have to do is lift this a little bit and make that a little shape right here, this path, that value. That's all I would have to do, but I'm leaving it alone. I'm going to go back to cluster real quick. And I'm going to, nope, I don't want that. You can take any one of these. You could take this one. This is a very simple one. And just try your colors. I've got damp, I've got wet on dry, I've got dry on dry. I've got everything in there. Same thing here. This is a low horizon, and I made the horizon into a shape. Easy, easy. That's interesting. That's interesting for a neutral palette. That really is a neutral palette. That's a Dior out of their windows. This is a nice neutral palette. I mean, that fits the warm and the cool pretty well. Love doing these. This is kind of what I was looking for. You can just split your page and try this. Wet on damp. Do some dry on dry. And you're going to always do wet on dry. That's just adding salt. Salt and spatter. And that's interesting because of the diagonals. Diagonals. These little guys, if you don't have a lot of time, these are such fun to paint and just start like I did. I had no idea what I was going to paint, except I started with a horizon line. Low, high, made a mark, put a wedge in. Oh yeah, that's a shoreline, and this is some fall woods over here. Same. Anyway. There's plenty of stuff, I think. And I said I was going to put something in there that you were, oh, it's already in there. It's this guy. You know what? I'm going to put these two guys in here just because we talked about them. And then maybe if you want to try it, you can try it. It's going to get stuck. Yeah. Yeah, because of that one. Let me take a screenshot of this. See if that's better. If the file's too big, your photos will not, it'll stall. Same thing. So I have to make that smaller. This is just as a reminder. But you can still paint. What we're learning today is you can still paint the same way using the basic techniques. Come on. Okay. No, it's oh, one of them. Oh, they did take. Good. Okay, cool. They're in your they're in the gallery now. So, you know, if you're into doing the color combinations, which I highly recommend, besides just a little swatch booklet, you actually want to paint something. There's very simple stuff in here to paint. Like we just got done with, or these guys. This one I just showed you. This one is just a two color, a warm and a cool. That one. I'll back out of that. This one, this is one, and this is one. Just give it a shot. That's just lifting. It's just what I just did on that one little painting right there with those sand dune things in the front.
Joe, this
Okay,
is
what
Nancy. I have another
yes.
question. Where is the invitation to the cluster account? I got my app installed on my phone, but I don't know where the invitation is in your
I
email.
sent an email this morning. Let me make sure that you were included. I have a final list, so
Is that a different cluster than?
yeah,
well,
you're on here.
yeah, I've always been in that one.
Yeah, if you go down here and click on this, that's going to
Yeah.
bring this up. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks.
Uh-huh.
So I don't need to join again. I mean, I'm already in, right?
It's a different folder. If you've been to a previous workshop, I made a folder for every workshop.
Okay, would this one be called Amazing Watercolors?
Amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Because all right.
Can I help you with anything? No? You can paint anything. Do you get what we're trying to do?
Joe, can I show you something I've done?
Sure. Anybody can do a show and tell.
Here we
Oh,
are.
look at that. Let me pin you. Oh, cool. See, that's a good use. You can paint that with two colors all day long.
That's right. This is a tiny one. I want to make it larger.
Yeah.
I like it.
And what I usually do in this, I put a little texture the closer it comes to the camera. It looks like roughed up snow.
Okay.
You know, just use a little blue. Keep this white back here. You could just use a little blue. It's further away from the light source.
Yeah. Okay. Like
Cool.
a dry brush, right?
Well, I would put a little tone on there first.
Yeah.
And if you want to do that dry brush on top of damp, it works really well because it's not quite as hard. It has texture without being so.
Top edges. Yeah.
Yeah. Just try that on a practice sheet. Anybody who wants to use that dry on dry. Oh, hi, Karen.
Well, oh, hi. Well, I was just going to show my first one. I have a second one too. I don't know if
Oh,
you can
cool.
see.
You've got all the elements.
Yeah.
Or all the, oh, I'll call them elements. Cool. And you let the sky paint itself, it looks like.
Yeah, and then that's the bottom one.
Cool.
Yeah, it was really
so
fun.
just pick something that's that is in your sweet spot.
Yeah.
That you paint. Howard,
Okay.
what do you like to paint? What subject matter? Can't hear you.
Are you talking to me?
I was talking to Howard.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I'm getting into figure drawing more.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Oh, good for you. Well, you know, a very interesting one for figure drawing is what did I do with those? They are not, they're just fun to use this technique with. I don't know whether this is one or not. No, that's an early one. I really like these. I put one of these in the cluster folder, but I may add. By the way, speaking of color combinations, let me share the screen again. Speaking of color combinations, this was beautiful. I found a new artist that I like. I thought the
Yeah, that's cool.
color palette on this was really good. And that's just that wet background. And this was wet on damp because he didn't let it dry. This is wet on damp down here. That glowy light doesn't have a hard edge. This wasn't quite dry enough. This is dry on dry. But that was really that was a striking painting for what I thought. It was pretty cool.
What's the color combination? Is it alizarin and ultramarine?
Oh, that painting that I just showed?
Yeah.
That's a full palette.
Yeah, that was like
That's basically, yeah, yellow, red, and blue.
Right.
And that's where you get that purple. But you could do this in 3 colors if they were the right 3 colors.
Yeah.
Is
Anyway,
that your painting?
it is a guy called Dai Junwei. Daijunwei. Dai Junwei. And I found him on Pinterest.
John Lee.
Yeah, you can just Google his name and you'll be able to find it. This is also something I found very interesting for watercolor. And I don't know how they did it. I don't know whether it was blown, you know, that fake airbrush, the Venturi tube airbrush. I've got an example of that someplace, but let me see what this is. No, I got faked out by that one before. I will find it. I just had it when I ran into this one. Oh, here. I thought this was pretty interesting. And there's people, Howard. I don't know whether they masked this off and blew it or whether they masked this off and this was wet. And then they charged it with color. And you would have to let this one in the behind, let it dry completely. This is like one a day. So paint light to dark, paint the background, paint this figure, then this figure. You could paint these two at the same time, and then paint this one, and then this one, or vice versa. But anyway, I thought it was a very interesting technique. Not my cup of tea, but maybe somebody else. Howard, if you're into figures, I love this photo I took at the beach. Because it tells a story. She wanted to throw stuff in the surf and she almost got caught. I can't find it right now. Anyway, it's some of this stuff is in your folder. It's more of this. I'll go back real quick. Howard, you might be interested in either adding figures to this if you wanted to, or I still like, what did I do with it? Where did it go? God, I'm having a blank here. I didn't put it in there. Let me check someplace else.
Joe,
Yes,
do you ever focus on granulating colors and use them?
yes. I've done whole workshops on nothing but granulating colors.
Oh, that
You
would be
guys
nice.
want to see that, then I will figure something out. Here's some here's this one that I showed you before. Here's a different take on that. If you like doing figures, you don't have to, you could do a very limited palette. I loved this one.
Oh, yeah, that's great.
Because of the way it was painted. I can add that too. I also like this one. I love drawing the figure and then painting a part of it. I like doing any subject matter with the drawing. I'm not going to paint the whole painting. There's another use of watercolor. Here's a very stylized use of watercolor and figures. The same here. I love this one. It's very designed. I still can't find the one I was looking for, but I will. If you like, this is what I showed you that dyed Junwei. He also painted this. I thought this was an excellent painting.
Yeah, that's cool.
Wet on wet, wet on damp, wet on or dry on dry, and wet on dry. It uses every one of these. And look how powerful that painting is. And it is designed well and it is drawn well, but you don't have to put in everything. This face has nothing. It's just a head. This has just a subtle suggestion of a profile. That's a very powerful painting. That's one of the reasons I liked him. These are the people I was looking for. Look at how beautiful watercolor that makes. Very simple painting, very limited palette. Edward Seago. Here's a couple of more. I love this one. Very simple painting. Look at that. It has all the stuff in there. Wet and wet, wet on damp, dry on dry, wet on dry. Very powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Mm-hmm.
And here we just get into more. Look at that limited palette. You didn't need any more color than that, did you? It set the mood, set the emotion. Very simple palette, but it can be a more colorful palette if you want. Very simple. Very simple. I would use quinacridone gold. I did that little study for that. That was Prussian blue and quinacridone gold. And I can get all greens out of just that little study that I did. Anyway. Do you want me to pull some of those off and put them in?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another one that was just black and white. Look at that beautiful use of watercolor. And really all that's rendered is the face. It's a very emotional piece to me.
Mm-hmm.
Here's another use of watercolor and what we've been talking about, the wet and wet, the wet and damp, the wet on dry, the dry on dry. Wow, it's pretty. You could almost paint this painting with just spattering paint on the page and then figuring it out.
Did you post that one?
Yeah. Whoops. Yeah, I'll post that one. I'll put this in, those in there. And I'll put this one in there. I think I did all these. I'll put this one in there just for fun. I'll put this one in there. And this was a very simple palette, but very different techniques. It's a very hard technique. I mean, a lot of hard. So you can lean on one of those. This was just the opposite. Look at how beautifully those blooms worked. Made those trees.
Yeah, that's great.
Anyway, I'll put that one in there. And just for variety, you know, this is not a great painting, but it's a great use of watercolor.
Yeah.
The wet on wet, wet on damp, wet on dry, dry on dry. You know, so anyway, and this bird, same thing. Anyway, there's tons of stuff. And I think I'll put this one in there too. That one that everybody liked. And just for oh my God, I've got a whole collection here. Oh, I didn't show you this one. This is just one color. Look at that. Look at those edges.
Wow.
That's pretty cool. And that you could do that in a 10-minute pose. Anyway, let me go back to a cluster and let me go back to your folder, and I'm going to add all these. Wow. Bonanza. Okay, let's add all these first.
You can see a lot of the challenges figuring out how wet your paint is and
Yes, if you haven't painted for a while, the only way to get around that is to paint. You just have to paint. By the way, if you load your folder, if you put your images from your camera roll or wherever you happen to get them, just put them on your desktop or from your camera roll and just drag them in. Here is a cluster. I'll show you this real quick. It's different on your pad and phone, I think. But in the upper right-hand corner on my computer, it's post. And I just click on that and it says add photos and add a note. And that's as complicated as it gets. If you want to add a note, just go down here, send, close it out, and there'll be a note that appears. This is, your folder is getting much bigger. Look at all this we just added. Especially if you like to do figures, I'd just start off here.
Did you add that nude?
That's in your folder. I'm sorry?
I don't see it.
It's in the amazing folder invitation I sent you to. It might take a couple of seconds.
Okay, I just didn't see it.
Oh, okay. Anyway, it's in your folder. So does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Good. I hope you're excited about trying something using these. It's really a very basic techniques. And it's really quite good from the standpoint of it's a limited palette. So you can get a lot of painting done. You can get a lot of painting done. You don't have to.
Yeah, it's amazing.
And the more you paint, whether you call it paint or practice, doesn't make any difference. But you're going to get better automatically. It's going to be beautifully painted itself. Yeah, isn't that cool? Easy. How do you like the bird sienna? Here,
I'm not very good at mixing.
oh, okay. Let me have your brush. So can I paint on this? I'm going to use it. I'm going to use it. Can you scoot over just a little bit? So, I like what you did here, but I'm going to change it a little bit. Atmospheric perspective. It's cooler as it goes back. It's warmer as it comes from. This is just right in the middle. I don't want that to be in the middle. I want it to be a little bit more, I'm gonna go for a little more neat. I'm gonna make this bigger, and I don't want these to go off the page, which they don't, but I'm going to bring that over to there. I can leave a little bit of that, so that puts that behind there. Put some trees on that. Actually, you did a pretty good job. That's not an easy stroke, especially with these brushes. Because that's a shadow. That. And so all I'm going to do is make the foreground warmer and darker. So I want this to really be darker up there, because that's going to put that in front of this. Well, let's stay there. This next to the whatnot. Yeah, and then you can do what you want. You could actually put here's some. See how much yeah, a couple minutes. It's a value thing. It's along with the edge thing. So I think that works pretty good. Cool. Oh, you picked a good one.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
And then I did that really fast and just.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Here's here's an example of this is just a quick one. Judy painted here, and you can't see me. I have a habit of doing that. What do you mean you can't see me? Where did my camera go? Oh, there it is. Anyway, this was just done quickly. So,
Nice.
yeah, she learned a lot about. Now I'm going from here to here. I have this nice little zigzag going on, and I have a high horizon. And when this ends up, there's this just some definition. I would probably wait for that to dry and put a couple of little pieces of a harder edge, and here maybe a little bit. I really like the way she did that. Anyway, those are you learn so much by doing those. And how long did that take you?
10 minutes.
Yeah, 10 minutes.
I just went to Bass Lake and I pulled up a picture on my phone. I'm like, okay, that'll work. Sort of.
No,
You went to
perfect.
where?
That's what
Bass
you're
Lake.
after.
Oh, Bass Lake.
That's cool.
Yeah. What did you say to do? Put something. Maybe I'll wait till it dries. Wait till it dries and do what?
Oh, I would just this is a nice hard edge here. I probably wouldn't do it. I was going to say just harder, but this is this paper is really cool texture.
Does it need a
so
reflection
just
like
leave it
these
alone.
trees maybe?
Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So try that one again.
That looks better.
Or just try something from that reference file.
Oh,
Oh, good.
Oh, you know what? No, this is
That's
just
cool.
watercolor.
Yeah.
But this is Kilimanjaro. I like this. These are awesome. These are good. Oh, yeah. this
Oh, I
is-
love this light. I'm looking at this fresh now. I love this light and this horizon line disappearing over here.
You just do these slow ways. I just use this, and then I can bounce between. a couple.
It looks wet.
Yeah.
It looks like it's this is a wet scene. That's a wet sky and a wet water, wet sand, wet grass, if you will. So that's fun.
Yeah, it's lovely. I have a good friend who has a lake house there. And we went for Labor Day, and it was raining 2 days. Oh. But. Yeah, right, the Yosemite foothills, you know. Yeah.
Joe, when you were sketching, it looked like you were using a red pencil. And in the video, it looked like a red pencil was used. And I've never seen that before. Is there a reason?
Yes, this is from, I learned this from Nathan Folks, Land Sketch is his blog. He's excellent. Nathan Folks, Fowkes. This is made by Prismacolor, but it's called Col Erase. COL-ERASE, and it will erase. Even though I have I kind of like leaving it. I've gotten used to it, but it will erase even though there's color on top of it. Graphite pencil will not. That's the reason I've been using this. It will not erase. This one has got some pastel in it or something, and it will erase pretty much completely, not depending on how hard you press when you draw. Anyway, that's the reason I use it. Is because I don't. I'm sorry?
Can you send us that information too on the specifics of it?
Yeah.
Thank you. There was a time when I tried drawing things with a fabric marker that when you got it wet, it went away.
You could do that with a watercolor pencil, I guess. I don't like watercolor pencils. I don't know. It's probably pilot error. They don't work for me. I kind of like. I'm used to this. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. So I'm going to do one more little thing here while you're painting your masterpieces. And this to me is probably the most fun and the most valuable. You will learn the most from doing this. And let's see, what color combinations should I use today? First, I'm going to get some clean water. And I'm going to clean my palette. I don't know why I still have paint on here. I'll just leave some of this paint on here. I have not tried the anthraquin blue yet, so I'll try that. I've tried the paint spray. I've tried the Prussian. Okay, there's some anthraquin blue. I am just going to make a stroke. There. Wow, what does that tell me? Does that tell me anything? I'm gonna make a stroke. I'm gonna be just the opposite up here. If I did that, I'm gonna do this. What is that? I don't know. I get to play God. I get to be a designer. Mix those two together, and that's kind of vertical, diagonal. Let's just do something like that. What is that? I have no idea. I'm going to make something out of it. Let's try something a tad warmer. And what's that? I don't know. But I mean, it's just using a 2-color palette. So I got to let that dry for a second. But anyway, there's my start. And this is my challenge. What am I going to do with these? I don't know yet. That's the fun part of this. And this is how all these came about. Some of them work, some of them don't. That's how all these happened. That's how all these happen. I didn't do it on this page, but what I suggest that you do is go ahead and split your page in half. I made this panoramic. I made this a vertical panoramic. This is a portrait. This is landscape. So I have all different formats to work to. And it makes it really interesting. Now that you're comfortable, now that you're also comfortable with this process, you can experiment with what you are liking to do.
If something's dry, then you just re-wet it. Like I should have put something here that was a wet.
Here, what I would do, I just had a question. If something's dry, and I want to put paint back on top of it, do not use your brush.
Oh.
Because it's going to just move the paint around. So don't spray it, mist it. Mist it. This is a mist.
Oh, okay.
Here.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were gonna spray me.
Yeah, just mist, and you can put your hand over where you don't want it. You can mist it like this. I just want to do that.
Oh, right.
Whatever you want. And
I'll
you
see.
can hold it up and see how wet
Oh, right.
it is.
Okay, so don't stroke over the paint. Yeah, because it's a beautiful sky, so I don't want to mess it up.
Yeah, that's why you don't have to touch the paper again. You want to re-wet something, I'm highly suggesting that you mist it and not try to put the water on with your brush.
Lost you.
He's outside sitting, painting the sky, painting the clouds. So what am I gonna do with these guys? I don't know. But this is part of the fun of it. And it's more about the value than the color. I think I kind of got this one figured out. So I'm going to use all my blues and all my earth tones. That's what I'm going to do. Try to do these fairly quickly before we run out of time. Oh, that's way too much. I'll probably end up contaminating all of my paint. No, I don't care. These are just ideas. Ideas. I am going to leave that one dry. There's a river coming down through here. That's what I'm going to make it. And this one is that's going to be a beach, I think. Kind of looks beachy to me. How fun. Almost done with my little ideas. If you're just a little inspirational.
All right, honey. All right.
And what is that gonna be? Let's use this color.
Okay, hold on, hold on. I'm coming.
Oh, you're so welcome. There's also one. It's okay. Yeah. Maybe I'm this way. That's good. You know what? I was keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep on keeping on. These look nice. I like this. Your sky is beautiful. It's our ocean. It's beautiful. It's I know. I was thinking, I didn't like the sky, and then no, it works. Yeah, maybe it's too dark. I don't know. We'll see how what happens. Did you use those two colors? I used ultramarine and Quinn Roll. No, it was because you got that funky green one. Right. It's the it's midnight blue. It is called,
Okay, that was 20 minutes, 15 minutes.
Very.
And I think I have some ideas for painting.
Yellow. It is so yellow.
I had no idea. You saw me start. I had no idea what it was gonna end up like.
The unveiling.
Dry on dry, wet on wet. I was gonna try to all of them and then I forgotten. Let's see, dry brush, all those, trying to do each one.
Yeah, you don't have to use all of them, but and you can use them sparingly. My whole painting's gonna have to be wet and wet or dry or whatever, but just a combination of all those.
That was neat how you just started with a shape and then you
Yeah,
let your,
that's what you do. You start with a shape and then you go for it.
yeah,
These are design things. Yeah,
what about design? I mean, you're
well,
so good at design.
it's
You know, you,
it's a matter of doing it.
yeah.
So I'm not big on book principles and elements of design. That's what I'm teaching at Cal Lutheran. I'm not big on pre-made compositions. Your gut is going to take, oh, I need a little more balance. I need this. I mean, whatever you put on there, see what there's.
I mean, you have that in you intrinsically, it's because you've been doing it so long. So,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the secret. I've been doing it so long.
Exactly.
So, here, you can have it.
Well, I think I might have one at home.
Okay, cool. So anyway, this was my cool and warm
Yeah, I love
experiment at the end. You can do these all day long.
Yeah.
And you learn so much about design by doing these. I can't tell you because you saw me start. It was just putting down a something. That's all it was. So, and you can make it into any subject matter you want. So I hope that helped. I think it was a valuable little piece of whatever. Hey, there we are. Did you guys get that?
Yeah, that was great.
Anyway, for I don't care whether you're painting figures or whether you're painting, I don't care what the subject matter is. I didn't do one with figures. I could have. I would have probably turned my pad to make vertical format, portrait format paintings. But anyway, I hope that makes sense. Comments, questions, please.
I think the two colors are really, just using two colors are really effective.
Yes, it's much more effective than you would think,
Yeah,
especially when you open your palette and you see 20 colors.
yeah, I feel like I learned so much by just actually using two colors rather. I think it's overwhelming to throw a bunch when you're learning, you know.
That's kind of what this was about. It's really about edges, soft, hard, dry. But you can find that out a lot easier by just keeping it simple. This is not a workshop on color palettes or color theory. I think all of you, especially Howard in his figure class, those samples that I put in there, it wasn't about the drawing, it was about the design and the edges. I mean, you can figure out how to draw a figure, you know, 8.5 heads high, and your crotch is the middle, and then your knees and your shoulders and all that stuff. You can learn that. It's just the design of using those. And it doesn't make any difference. You can take any one of these little makeups. I could put that in any location. I could, you notice I left a lot of white paper. I can figure out how to design those easier. I can go back with more paint. I can paint over stuff. I can look at these tomorrow and say, oh, that's pretty good. I'm going to leave it alone.
Right.
Or you'll look at it tomorrow and you'll say, oh yeah, I know what it needs now. It needs a little bit of ink, and then you're done. So
I think
anyway,
yeah, it's sort of it kind of helps you not overwork, because you're not adding that one more color or that, it helps you stay focused on shapes and variety, using your brush in a variety of ways.
yeah, depending on what palette you use, what warm you use, and what cool you use, you can go from bright to subtle pretty easily, especially with the quinacridone paints that we have now. So anyway, I will send you guys that article on the Two Color blog. I will send you the YouTube links that we touched on, the cluster.
Super.
I already sent you the cluster folder link, the masking tape link, and the call erase link, that pencil that I used to draw with.
Okay.
So anything else?
I have a note. I wrote down Big 4, and I have no idea why I wrote down Big 4.
Because it's I call it the Big 4. It's wet on wet, wet on damp, wet on dry, and dry on dry. Those will give you all the edges.
Thank you.
That's why I called it the Big 4. And using a limited palette, you can use it. Yeah, the Big 4, because the Pac-12 doesn't exist anymore. Thanks to greed. And that's why we used a limited palette. Something warm, something cool. It really doesn't make that much difference as long as you can get a good dark. Dark is very important. So you can't pick a manganese. Well, I guess you could. Blues are usually dark anyway. So any questions? Anybody? Please post something to cluster.
Okay.
And you ask your questions there when it soaks in, or when you're done, or whatever.
Do you have any advice on paper?
Here's what I've been using. This might seem nutty, but I got tired of paying $50 or $48, I think, for a pad of arches. And I use Fabriano. I prefer Fabriano, but I found something at Michael's. And Michael's, they always have a 40 off day. So I've been using this, and it is 100% cotton. It paints just like Arches or Fabriano or any of those. And a $40 pad you can get for $25 at Michael's.
What is it? A brand name? A brand name?
It's Artist Loft. It's same thing you've got in your hand.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
Only
that's fine.
only different. Yeah, it's 100% cotton.
Can we see it? I don't know what you're talking about.
Oh, here, let me show it to you, and you can take a screenshot.
Great.
Still a little wet.
Oh, okay. Here.
And here's the little.
And do not make sure you get this one. This is the there's two papers they have. The one with her on the cover is the 100% cotton. If there's a tree on the cover, it's not 100% cotton.
Okay, I can't see what you're talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, guess. Come on, what's wrong with you? There's the Michael's paper. It's 100% cotton. That's what I've been painting on, and every time they have a 40 off, I go get a pad. Because instead of $40, it's 25. Do not get this one. This is not 100% cotton. It's got a tree on it. Get the one with the woman on it. 9 by 12, I think 11 by 16 are the sizes. So a quarter sheet and 9 by 12.
Oh, that's 100% cotton, that one.
That's 100%
you.
cotton. Huh?
The Michaels?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, it paints very well. Everything I've shown you, all this stuff we've been painting on, all the stuff that I've shown you is painted on this paper. So.
I didn't know that this was not 100% cotton, but it paints fine for the.
Well,
itty
I don't-
bitties.